The Omniologists Collective is a public forum group aimed at curating communication, perspectives, and progress. Recorded at our studio in Montclair, New Jersey, we're focused on bringing the local community together to discuss topics that are important to us. You can access our group and live streams through Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Omniologists Collective.
Well, welcome to the Omniologists Collective, episode 3. We made it this far. I have a new group of people with me tonight, which is awesome. So we're going to go around and maybe you could say your name and maybe something significant as to why you're here, or maybe something about you. I don't know, to show the world a little bit why you're interested in this. Let's start backwards.
I'm Sean Porteous. I have a big interest in studying the mind, and because we live in a mind game, and it's about getting rid of that, in my opinion, and uncovering what creates it to be.
Nice.
My name is Lex. I came here to learn different perspectives of different people. Majority of my life, been around very similar people. Since an adult now, I want to learn all walks of life, real personally too.
Awesome.
My name's Kevin. I was here last month, and I just like the deep conversation, the modern topics, and kind of trying to tie everything together, seeing what's behind the trends, the micro trends, why it seems like there's so much control, and how to break out of that, break out into freedom in a sense.
My name is Barbara. I guess I started this about a year ago only because I too felt that I was in a mind game and that I was under some authoritarian control which I needed to find freedom from. So I wanted to find other like-minded people that wanted to kind of understand how to go about what to do next, I guess. So I started this. Thank you for watching. Cameraman, you're next.
I can't see myself in the shot yet, but hi, I'm Chris. This is my environment. It's called All Sounds. I'm here hoping to facilitate a salon-like intellectual situation to open people's minds and to make people go back to having a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go make coffee.
All right, so I wrote down some, every great discussion needs coffee. I wrote down the coffee shop, best place for discussion amongst strangers throughout time. I wrote down some talking points. I have no idea if we'll actually get to them, but I thought they were relevant for what's been going on lately or something that's been on my mind at least lately. So who knows, maybe the collective consciousness will agree with me. Maybe you guys will agree with me. The first point I have is isolation in an internet age. Sorry, I butchered that. It's hard to say. Obviously regarding to what happened recently. But I do find that that's a topic that I do not see any sort of clear, concise way forward with, so it'd be interesting to talk about.
See, that's where this is cool, because I'm very isolated in this internet age, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Nice. Great. I love this, because that's exactly why I think it's important to talk about it and to get people like this that have perspectives like that.
I've let go of my television for 4 years now, because it's just a brainwashing mechanism on your mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Words are spells. So
Let's just start talking. Who needs these?
So words are continuously spell-casting vibrations onto your mind, which you subconsciously hone in on and become and follow as a sheep unknowingly in the mind game, getting lost in other people's trips of reality, never stepping into your own reality.
It's supported by other people too. Like they support exactly
people.
the same thing, yeah.
Many people, because they'll think they're supporting it, but they're projecting their own state of consciousness onto your being, making you fall into their state of being, never actually
It's like we're all turning on each other without even like realizing it consciously.
For an energy transfer.
And that's why I think it's also playing into this idea of power games, which I think everyone's saying a lot of these issues going on in the world is due to power.
It's due to that energy that one can't create within and free willingly give it unconditionally. And for that, just one might seem when they give, one must receive. So it's a constant energy struggle within the mind until one can let go and just trust the universal flow will come back to oneself, as it's
Right.
always you and you for you, because everything is just you here and now, always.
Yeah, what you're describing to me is what language is. So when you have a conversation with someone, you are getting them first to believe, like when I'm talking to you right now, I'm getting you first to believe in my spell. That's why you're listening, right? And then my spell is the word game that I'm spewing to convince you of, right? So like there are bad methods of language manipulation, and then there is those that you could say are good, but inevitably they're both riddled with
I
like
would say you're looking at that too negative, because the
Cool.
universe is forever just loving you.
yeah, I have a negative sort of insight in general.
That's just your perspective on yourself.
Totally. I'm gonna continue making coffee.
Thank you,
All right.
Chris.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about this? This is
Yeah.
a very heavy first topic, but let's
That's
get into
totally
it.
true.
Thank you, Sean, for opening this up.
Yeah.
A lot of points I agree with. I've been recently reading the Tao Te Ching, which relates to a lot of
Tao Te Ching?
Tao, I think it's pronounced D or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
Tao.
I started reading it.
I'm like
Yes.
3/4 done with it. A lot of stuff you're saying is almost straight from that.
Mm.
It's really just almost
Yes.
universal at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
But it takes language to even understand that, though, which I think right now is a privileged thing to be able to have these texts and
Lang-
refer back to them.
Language is a beautiful thing. Tripping with my one friend in silence for a very long time. After being telepathic, we then started speaking in tongues of what we're thinking in the mind, and we were creating language. for
And you
one another.
understand it between each
And
other.
it was in a rhythmic, poetic form with no syllables.
Hmm.
It was just a flowing vibrations, and we were both able to comprehend through the mind, through the telepathy that was already there and grounded and understood for quite a while, and with the lonesome silence of yourself, able to finally understand where you're vibrating and what you're feeling, you can then reach that point. It was very it only lasted 10 minutes, and then we kept thinking how to do it, and when you think, you fall short to
That's
your becoming,
that's like a
because you're not
controlled
playing the game.
isolation. Like
Yes.
you are accepting that you are isolated and everything that comes with it, as opposed to this. I think because you're like, I don't understand isolation in an internet age because I don't use the internet. I think that's the problem that kids or people have right now is they don't have the ability to be aware of their isolation the way you can be, because that's productive to me. You are actually like, that's true isolation in a healthy man, like in a way that
Paradoxically, he's
it's-
opening up to the internet.
yeah.
Because I think the problem is, it's not that someone is necessarily wrong about what they're focusing on, but they're focusing on a sliver of truth. And so when we get into these arguments, and I'm falling into the same traps of liberalism versus conservatism and all these news media where they're putting out negative story after negative story after negative, a lot of times what they're reporting is true, but it's not the whole truth. It's just a small sliver of truth. And the problem is that when you focus in on that negativity, which is real, so I don't dismiss the people focusing on the negativity as hallucinating, but you're blocking out the infinite because you're focusing on this slight sliver of negativity, and you're looking at this negativity over here, us versus them, this duality, this polarity consciousness. So if we're constantly fighting over colors blue and red, what about all the other colors? We're not talking about them. We're only talking about two. Now, blue and red exist. We're not wrong about that. But everything we're not talking about, not focused on, because we're on this finite, narrow bandwidth.
That continuous creation of spellbounding the mind into a negative thinking.
Yeah.
It's the narrative that they write.
They're using
Yes.
truth to
They're
block
directing your mind
universal
because
truth.
you don't have a direction.
So that's how we have to go about moving forward, is how can everyone achieve freedom of their own narrative? Like, how do you
achieve freedom of your own narrative?
or
By
like being
simply-
able to create your own narrative?
by simply understanding that you are the director of your mind and your life, and also letting go to what you think is what you want, because what you want is not what you need, and what you need is not what you want. And And so by manifesting your life in your mind, but letting go to it, because when you're trying to create your mind or your life and you want it to be in a specific way, that's your anxiety of knowing the future, but thinking it has to be in this way, the fixated way of your mind, when in reality it's going to be created by the universe. The minute you let go and start flowing, everything starts creating for yourself, not exactly how you want it to be, but exactly how you need it to be. And when you start seeing the needs over your wants, you'll start receiving everything in over an abundancy for your life, because you're actually letting go to let the universe create your direction of your mind by trusting in the flow of your life.
I think a lot of humans
amazing,
have an unhealthy obsession though with this fake idea which is a perfection. I think that's what keeps them from doing that.
What's the amazing thing is these energies at the beginning, when you first start meditating, going to spirit, they're very subtle. So the universal intelligence at the beginning, when you first start, is much more subtle than the loudness of our own minds. So if someone says, well, then how are we doing our own work? If we're getting this universal intelligence, where's the effort? Where's the work on our part? Well, the silencing of our minds is an incredible effort, because we're having all these thoughts in our mind. It should be this way, it should be that way. You have to silence all of that to get the universal knowledge. That is us.
Yeah.
Us not getting distracted by, look at what all there is to get distracted. And then let's face it, there are some good things to get, like an ice cream sandwich and a coffee is a good thing to get distracted on, in a sense. But as we're tuned into that finite thing, we're not tuned into that infinite energy. So if you think, oh, well, is this cheating? No, it isn't, because to not be distracted by everything that's finite, everything in this universe is finite, good and bad, is not an easy thing to do. But if you can still your mind and quiet your mind, and then align your free will with allowing the universe to let in, you're taking that cover off the lid, and that knowledge and that love and wisdom are flowing in. But it means that you have to get out of the mindset of, it's not that we're all the same, we're all different, there's diversity, but we're all connected. And when you have that spiritual sight, you see the connection. You're different than me, I'm different than him, but there's a connection of energy in between all things.
And that's empathy.
Empathy.
Like the action is empathy of what you're saying, like the action.
Yeah, I think it results in an empathy, because the person that doesn't matter, that not your boss just walking by the street you could care less about, they matter. How come it's always the person, I was saying this before we went on camera, that I gotta pass this interview, so I want to make a good impression on him. Or I'm going to ask this girl out, so I'm going to make a good impression on her. And as I went more spiritually deep, I realized that the waitress serving me, who I'm not even going to see in an hour, has nothing to do with my life. They matter too. You know, what are they doing when I'm not there? The person that's walking by the street that has no impact on my job or my relationship or my life. You start seeing that connection between everybody. It's not sameness, but it's universal connection.
Well, when
We're all
you go
connected.
to that, say you're going to go to that girl, meet up with that girl or something, and your perception as you're in your walking state, which is just the same as your meditation state, is rippling effect and creating that reality. And the more you create a nervousness, or you see it going in a specific direction and you keep perceiving it that way, the more it's just going to keep turning into that direction.
I think that's why the middle ground's disappearing, because whatever direction you're going in, it seems like it keeps going that way. People stop going out to places to have fun with their friends. They don't seem to rebound that easily. They seem to stay at home. They're like relaxing on the couch, watching TV.
Sedation.
They seem to stay in that mode. They go out,
Convenience.
it gets easier to go out. The flow is going in whatever direction you're going in, and it builds on so that means whatever you're doing, in my opinion, gets easier. Whatever you're not doing gets harder. But that means if you are not learning, trying to understand things,
It's not
it gets
expected of
harder
us
to
anymore.
understand those things. If you're not actively seeking spirituality gets more distant. If you are actively seeking it gets closer. That's why that halfway house of the middle ground, I feel like, is disappearing, because everything's constantly in the motion of our previous inertia.
Because they're not in the here and the now, of the here and now, because their mind is trying to be with it all, of it all, but there's something now in front of them that is receiving, or they're supposed to be receiving and transmitting for the universe or one another, but since they're lost in their phone or some other type of mindset that's pulling them away from the universe in front of them, they never actually receive that that elevation for themselves, or give off that elevation for themselves to keep going on a further path of their mind.
So are we just talking about communication now, like the way to communicate?
Well, in a sense, regrets and regrets of the past and anxiety of the future, these different things are, if you're in the universal present, you realize that when you read a book and you learn about all this history from the past, that's okay, that's fine. But then after you learn that past knowledge, apply it in the present. And all the things you're worried about in the future, when they count, they'll be in the present. When you buy that house you're thinking of, or go on that vacation, or do that journey that you have always planned out, maybe in the future now, when it counts, it will be in the present. So if you master the present, it doesn't mean you have to disregard the future and the past. It means you learn from reading about the past, apply what you've learned in the present, and the future anxieties and ideas you have, when you get to them, it will be the present. It won't be the future anymore. So if you master the present as like your sphere of influence, you can still respect the future and the past, but make the future and past are the princes. The present should be the king, in my opinion.
And going for communications wise, I wouldn't really necessarily say communication, but if you're around a group of friends and it takes time for everyone to completely get silent with one another, because there are so many activities going on, maybe with the phone or a cigarette or a beer or food. But then what's actually there here and now, besides all the external infinite nothingness?
And that's sometimes
energy,
that's all people know
that's
too.
all we are. And by the time it hits that silence, where is the energies? Are they able to connect? Are they able to create that communication? They can create that communication through that external activities, but once they're gone and they're silent, there's nothing there, and it shows that they lack actually fully connecting, because once that becomes silent, they want to fall back and go into their own reality trip. But this is the reality trip of the here and now. It's always been here and now. It's never left, but you are in all this external that never actually puts you in the here and now, because once all this external is done, food, drink, music needs to be on something, it keeps your mind just from connecting with people in a full state of being in a oneness.
I think that's a human habit though, is like creating things for yourself to do so that you don't get too sucked into the all of this is meaningless.
Well, the infinite
state.
It's the infinite creation, but all we are is being, and you have to learn to love being, because the creation is easy to love. The externals are easy to love. They're infinite. They connect to our senses. It's beautiful, but be able to just be. That's to be the most simplistic thing possible, because it's just breathing. But that's the most hardest thing for one can manifest in their mind and put on a smile.
So you meditate. You meditate. Do you meditate?
I meditate.
How do you meditate?
I had learned early from, I got to some Buddhist temple. They kind of taught me. At this point, I just simply just breathing. I just put a timer on like 10, 15 minutes. I go past the timer. Like we were talking about earlier with in the Tao Te Ching, where the pursuit of knowledge is picking up a little thing every single day, where the pursuit of becoming one with the universe is letting go as much as you can. So I'm at that process now. I spent 10 years learning all this history, politics, war, culture, etc., etc. Now I'm at the point where I have to let almost everything I know go. Nothing is true except what's within me. Everything external, even everything around me here, is not myself, and it is not letting me near myself. I need to let go in order to get to that middle.
Yeah, and meditation does that. The weird thing is the door to meditation at the beginning, for me, it was incredibly boring. Not anymore. But at the beginning when I first started it, and I realized that the paradox is the more present tense you become, the more anticipation there is. And that's, I call it paradoxical, because anticipation is about getting psyched about something that's going to happen. But when you have that intense vibrancy, the whole world seems to be more, and I think the people that are vibrating at the lower level, who haven't met, in a sense to their own credit, they don't have these feelings bubbling up. They're not able to see these higher spectrums of color yet, because they haven't walked through the spiritual door The lavender light that makes everything brighter is blocked when we get depressed, when we're stressed out, which we've all been.
Yeah.
And it's we have it when we're kids. Think about how bright things looked when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The grass, the sky. I mean, for you, it's probably come back. But I mean, think about how bright everything looked as a child. Then we block that. So can we really judge the people who don't have that vibrancy in their
Can
life?
I make a comment about that really
Yeah.
quick? It's interesting you say that because I remember a few months ago, I was talking to somebody that was making the same point you just made, except his opinion was that the reason why it feels that way is because when you're younger, you've only had how many summers, how many
Yeah.
falls. Now how old are you and how many times have you gone through the same season and it doesn't matter as much to you?
Yeah.
You start taking things for granted. You know, when you're young, you don't have responsibilities really. You're playing outside all the time.
That's what I was going to
You
say.
know?
When you're young, you don't have responsibilities to hold on to, so the anxiety and depression kind of is never there. You're always at this oneness state of being, wherever what's in front of you. And especially with all of us, when we were younger, we didn't have a phone to blind
Right.
us and instantly pull us
Yeah.
away from our reality in front of us. We had to walk 30 minutes from home, and it's a
Yeah.
30-minute walk, and we're enjoying and seeing everything around us, not a 30-minute walk, and we didn't even look up from our phone for a second.
I think for a lot of people my age, though, we had TV, though. We had Game
True.
Boys. We had all types of things to distract us, movies. Now we just have something that's quicker, right in my pocket I can do. Really, I have what I wished for when I was a teenager, you know, had questions, looking for answers. I have it now. Now I realize that I need to get rid of it to find the answers I need.
That's a great
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
you just said, because there's a picture in New York on some block from 1910, and there's like 100 guys standing there reading a newspaper, and they have a picture of the same block of over 100 people standing on the wall but on their phone. And it's
Yeah,
just-
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that little
Yeah.
TV in the window when you have a whole bunch of people just looking at the little screen.
Right.
It's the same. It's over and over. It keeps happening. Almost, it's like the world is cyclical. It's why I feel like nothing out here is really gonna help me attain that selfhood that I'm looking for. It's just a cycle. Whether it's my generation, my parents, or my grandparents, there's always something to distract you.
There's definitely a difference though between the distraction of the newspaper and the distraction of the phone.
Yes.
Because a phone is created by so many more people involved, like at once, where it's literally feeding into this instant gratification that, like, I believe is something we all kind of have at some point inside of us, but like it's whether or not you feed it, does it like take over you in a way? So you like the convenience of being able to come home and put on like your show that you want to watch and like chill, and then it's another thing to like constantly need something new to keep you and like
It's dope.
going or
It's dope.
something.
It's dope. It's drugs.
Yeah,
Like
it
I
gives
have to
you a-
admit, the other last weekend I forgot
Yeah,
my
first.
phone at work, and we weren't open Sundays, so I was without my phone for a couple of days. And I'm trying to get to where you're at, right? Where you don't use things, but I do use it for this group. I do use it for work. So every now and then I had this urge to reach for something that wasn't even there, and I felt like it was like a cigarette craving. It was terrible. I was like, ew, how can something physical do this to me?
Because humans are habitual.
Yeah, it's
We're
habitual.
habitual.
It's habitual.
You know? And then
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to mention from our conversation is like, I really deeply believe in the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So those are, you need, you know, like the human needs are shelter. What? Yeah, it's just going slowly.
Okay.
Okay, so like the, you know, feeding yourself, shelter, so safety, love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization. The state of like oneness, right, only comes after you've eaten. I think, you know, after you have an environment where you can like sit and feel as if you can sit, and then also feel that you are worthy of sitting, right? Like, because some people are born into environments that are immediately toxic and program them with negative views of reality. That's why I agree with what you're saying, right? But some people are born into situations with immediately toxic and deep programming of language to make them not even, like, one, that they can't acquire their basic needs, so that they can't even get to a level where they can just be.
But is it programming, or is it putting yourself through a heavier state of reality to achieve?
I don't know. Sometimes,
Because
yeah.
you have to go down to go up.
Yeah. No, I do agree. Yes, kind of. Maybe.
You can't just
But I don't
be
think,
the light, and you can't just be dark. You have
Yeah.
to be it all and know it all.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm one of those people who doesn't believe like in dark. Dark is just like the absence of light.
Dark is just the space to create.
Right. That's it. It's just the
Yeah,
absence
it's the
of light.
unseen country. It's the undiscovered country. You have
Yeah.
to go into the
The
darkness
unknown.
to
Shine the
change.
light.
Yeah, to get to the light on the other side.
Yeah.
So if you stay in your comfort zone, you're walking sideways your whole life.
Mm.
But when you go through the darkness in the woods, metaphorically speaking, and literally speaking, when you go through the darkness in the woods on the other side, that's when you get to the higher level spiritually.
And
So you
this
have to
is-
break
I
out.
see that literally speaking. Because
Yeah.
say in a forest, you go to any park, any forest, and there's a pre-directed path to go on to get to the top of the mountain. Now, but what is that pre-directed path? But just as the same as like a job, as society pre-directs your mind and giving you a path to be. Now, this path is it will take maybe an hour and a half to get to the top. It's long. You won't fall or anything. It's very easy. It's very directed, but you're carrying everything with you. You're trudging your 2 feet, and you just have to keep walking. But now, instead of carving all the way up around that mountain, you could go through the darkness, through the trees, right up the mountain. Don't follow the direction, and you go straight up the mountain. Now, it will take only 30 minutes to get up the mountain. You're using the trees to pull you up. You're using the rocks to help you up. Who are those trees and rocks but you and you and you helping me with my life? Trusting myself of myself, getting myself of where I want to go, directing my own mind. But directing my own mind and letting go of my ego to trust in the universe of myself, to guide myself for myself, to get myself to where I want to go. And now I might fall twice, and I might fall twice or 3 times, but that's the universe telling you, I'm in control. You ain't gonna die. Just keep going and keep smiling, keep having fun. And when you get to the top, you're less tired. You're at the top way quicker. You're less tired. You found your own direction of your mind. You use other external things that you were able to trust in yourself to go up. You didn't put your whole weight on the tree like you don't put your whole weight on a friend, because then the tree will fall, just like your friend will fall, and then you might fall. And it's just
Yeah.
But see, the sense is what you're saying is true. It's forgotten wisdom.
yes.
When I go into the woods at night and I feel energy, I actually feel them from the trees.
Yes.
There's
I've had that
no one
before,
else
too.
there.
Yeah.
I go in the daytime, and this is interesting to say.
It's
to
the
you as
beauty
well.
of the silence.
I've seen
right?
men in that same reservation in the daytime, hunters' hats on, 5 dogs. These are tough guys, right? Macho guys. I've seen women running up the mountains, mud all over their shins. I mean, you're talking athletes here. Some people in the military up there running around, exercising. The second the sun goes down, the second there's no light, there's not only no women, there are no men.
That's my favorite part.
There are no men up there neither. They're all gone. You are by yourself in the woods. I've been going up there at nighttime for more than 20 times. I've only seen 3 teenagers, and the reservation I go up to is over 100 years old. So I don't expect a 60-year-old man to start doing this now. Since the reservation's 100 years old, where's the guy who did this 40 years ago, who just grandfathered it in and kept doing it? He started when he was young, and once you do something, there's nobody up there. So this knowledge, this energy, this night side energy, which is a different energy
It's the
that you
same
feel
thing
in
with
the
kids
day.
living outside anymore either.
Yeah, well,
It's a
this to
whole
almost an extreme.
Yeah.
There's a whole different energy. No one can, and it'll be there forever, so you got plenty of time.
To tap.
But it's because it's universal. But if no one's there right now, they're not seeing it. They're not feeling it. So it's forgotten wisdom. I mean, our ancestors, Native Americans, no doubt know about this. But it hasn't been. If no one alive now is doing it on a regular basis, who's there to pass along that there's night side energy? There's no one there to talk about it. But yet it is there. It's a real energy.
Well, there is
a
a trend of like being outdoors. Let's go hiking. This is like the cool trendy new thing. But that's not anything like what you're talking about.
I'll tell you about what happened with me. I'm a clumsy person. I'll fall, I'll lose my keys, wallet all the time. I had a pair of sneakers. I couldn't find them when I came home, and I just had them like 15 minutes earlier. So I put on my dress shoes, go up to the reservation, about 8 miles away from here. I had forgotten that day, this was like the Thursday before this one, that the ice everything was covered with ice in the parking lots and stuff. They did a great job on Bloomfield Avenue of melting it away, so it wasn't actually on the streets and the sidewalks, but in the parking lots it was still there. I had forgotten about that because it wasn't on the streets. I get up to the reservation, ice everywhere. I'm like, I got my dress shoes on. It doesn't even have tread on it. I forgot about this ice because it's not on the streets itself. Am I going to go walking out and go all the way home, get a pair of sneakers on? I know I'm going to fall, because I would fall in the daytime. I walked across that ice like it was nothing. I didn't slip once. There was no tread on my shoes. Then I look at the mountain. There's ice all the way up the side of the mountain. I'm like, how am I going to walk in dress shoes with no tread when I can't even walk in the daytime? I did not fall once. If in the daytime I would have fallen. So what I'm saying is there is like an energy there. Like, and then for the next 36 hours, I'm the most organized person in the world. My room is spotless. My living room is spotless. I'm not losing anything. Then about 36 hours after I do this, I'm losing my car keys. I'm losing my socks.
Can I tell you about my best experience of going hiking somewhere at night in, like, darkness?
Yeah.
I went to, have you ever been to Garden of the Gods Park?
Yes, I have.
Oh,
Colorado?
Yeah.
Yes, I've been there twice.
We've been there at night? Or during the day?
I was there during sunset.
Okay, I went back at night. It is terrifying, and they're just rocks. But there's something, like you said, there's an energy.
Where you didn't fall on the rocks.
Well, I didn't fall on the rocks, but it's also just being next to these giant black shadowed
giant rocks.
Oh, boulders.
Yeah,
Like,
they're like
at the
stories.
Garden of the
Oh my
Gods
God,
Park, right? And it's just like creepy almost, but in a good way, in a comforting way. Not like, because I don't really get scared too much about about rocks, but it was this very comforting, strange, almost like
Spiritual energy.
spiritual old. It's like old energy.
Because like he was saying, the dark represents moving out of your safe zone. It represents the journey. Mm-hmm. You're on your way to the new place. The light represents maybe the destination and home base. Mm-hmm. But to get there, you have to travel through the darkness. And that means you are going into uncharted land. Mm-hmm. And spiritually, you're going into uncharted land. But you're rewarded for taking that risk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where the growth comes in. Without darkness, there's no growth. That's where the growth comes in.
Oh, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
On a kind of different topic, but very similar to that. So, enduring pain to get somewhere. Two things about that. I think that that's the problem with a lot of people today is they don't want to be open to new ideas because, like, kind of what you said about giving up things, people don't want to do that. Why? When they have things,
Addiction.
like, why do they have to give them up? And why do they have to feel that, like, pain of, like, giving something up? I don't know, but whatever.
You're giving up that thing, you're giving up the want of that thing.
Yeah.
They're feeling the pain because they're feeling themselves.
Or being,
they're not feeling what they're giving it.
Exactly.
Where they're giving it.
Yes.
They're feeling their own addiction to it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that idea. The second idea is that current movements, social movements, trying to redefine whatever has been going on lately. The problem I have with that is a lot of the people that run these movements are so progressive in the way they speak. They want things to be better, but I don't think they'll ever actually want it to be better because then they will lose their power in having a voice.
Democratic Party.
You know, they're like, I will get you this far, but God forbid things get figured out, then no one's going to care about me anymore because it was all for attention. Or they wanted to be like, my face is going to be in the history book of being this person that did this thing. Like, who gives a fuck about that? I'm sorry. Like, do your part because you want to.
Because it's supposed to
Because
be.
then if it's not genuine, then, like, I'm sorry, it's not going to really be...
Resonate.
You know what I think about people like that, though?
It's fake energy.
They're born into the mainstream American narrative with power. Like, they're already born into a situation with power in the narrative, and they were never totally detached from it, you know? And what's interesting about, like, our current political time is arguably there's people who are detached from the narrative who are now part of the government. That's what they're trying to say or whatever, which I, like, kind of disagree with. I just think, like, the government is just the narrative that rich people use to manipulate, or, like, not rich people, but, like, people with access to many things use to manipulate people with access to few things, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so some people were born closer to that area where they have access to a lot of things. And so how it's more difficult for those people to remove themselves from that situation. And it usually is done with trauma or whatever, which everyone's trying to avoid trauma in general, right?
But I think there's a good way to kind of, we're entering the age of the unhiding, right? I think what's happening here is we're seeing a lot of racial anger and prejudice and spirituality and hidden evil and hidden good rising to the surface like a volcano.
But I think
Stuff
those
that
are
was-
fabricated things. You know what I mean?
I
I
have
think
to
those are
agree.
like generated narratives that are sold to us.
But if people are falling for them,
right, that's
it's still
that's the
anger.
issue.
Even if the anger was based on something fake, the anger was there. and
That's
they
why
were
you have
hiding
to
it.
care in a way.
Yeah.
As much as you want to not care, the stupidness is affecting the people.
They're
around
really
you.
feeling the pain. They're
Unfortunately.
falling for it. But the thing is, I would say about these people. Now, there's this argument on the right, not to get into polarity here,
Whatever.
that there are certain people on the left who want to keep the food stamps program and want to keep the welfare and to keep people poor. There are some genuine people that want to raise wages. What I notice is it seems more to be people on the right side in the Republican Party who are against raising the minimum wage to a living wage. They're the ones in Congress who are normally blocking, with a few Democrats too. And the Democrats support the social programs. So my thing is, here's the solution to that, okay? You create a living wage, okay? You get people off, the Republicans that are complaining about too many people on food stamps and on these welfare programs, you create a living wage where people don't need them. You'll be able to reduce those programs by 2/3. Sure, you'll still have the disabled and you'll have some people that'll need them out of necessity. But all the people that are on those programs because their wages are too low now won't need them. Now, to the other side of that coin, if there are people on the left who just want to have the program there to keep their own power, they're going to start freaking out. Because if you raise the minimum wage to a wage, or you create a living wage where people don't need food stamps anymore,
Right.
they're going to lose their power. So the authentic people on the left, like me and you, who would really want people off these programs, if the wages would go up, would say, sure, raise the wages. We only want food stamps because these wages are so low and people can't survive without them. But the people that would just want them on the program so they can stay at the top of the program, the second you raise those wages to a living standard,
Oh, it exposes.
they're going to freak out.
Yeah.
So why not do that? You get the right wing is happy because now people are not on the programs because they're making good salary, and these power-hungry people on the left that are only for the program for its own sake, they're going to be like, oh no, they're raising
Maybe
wages.
it's
I have a
all a distraction.
You know,
I have a much darker view of what you're describing.
Yeah.
And my darker view is, I think that by supporting, I think sometimes, again, people who do try to manipulate masses target demographics with certain debilitations, be it money or physical disabilities, mental disabilities, and they'll create situations where they become dependent on the government.
Yeah.
One of them, for instance, is nihilistic people with no religion on Facebook.
Oh,
Right,
yeah, that's the big
and
one.
they sit there on Facebook with like, I don't think religion is the answer to anything. I think that there is an answer to things in spiritual thinking and questioning, but that's it.
All religions hold the same truth.
Right. It's the questioning. It's the act of curiosity and questioning that I think is the religious position.
Yes.
The curious, questioning being or whatever. But anyway, so nihilistic people with no religion and no deeper curious questioning sit on Facebook, and people with the right access to power can easily manipulate all those people because they don't have a base narrative of which to have a foundation for their beliefs. So then it's easy to manipulate people like that who don't have a base narrative for their beliefs.
So why do they need a base narrative pre-directed by
Well-
the universe? Why can't the base
Right.
narrative be pre-directed by your own spiritual beliefs?
Well,
But
I
that
think it's
is-
more in the
but that
sense that
is a
they're not
way-
even seeking a narrative.
Well, you have to
Like you're
get to that
saying.
point, though. It's
I
not
do believe
easy.
what he's
That's
saying.
it. You
I
have
believe
to
what he's
get
saying.
to where you're
Yes.
at is an awesome place that I
Yeah.
think we all want to get to.
Yes.
But the entrance door to that is so subtle.
Yeah.
The thing is, as you practice,
With
you
the
practice
sedation,
meditating,
too.
as you do
Yeah.
it more, it gets less and less subtle. It gets more and more powerful. But at the very beginning, when I first started crystals, sound baths, all that stuff, I could barely feel the energy. My mind's own energy was so much more powerful than the energy. It was over because of free will. But as you keep going with it, go deeper, that spiritual energy, that infinite energy gets
You
stronger.
guys have
and stronger.
access to this. I'm talking about
Yeah.
people that are thinking about when they're next going to eat.
Yeah.
Right.
And
That's
taking
what
care of their
I'm
like
worried
5
about.
kids.
That's
that
what I'm saying.
they
The
might get kicked out
distractions are
tomorrow.
legitimate.
Yeah.
I'm saying the distractions are legitimate. I don't think that door is an easy. It's such a subtle door. I think it's a door you should open. but I don't think it's easy for them to see because of these distractions.
Right.
But all of these distractions are just created by your own chaotic madness that you could not direct properly,
Yeah.
falling short,
Well, I think
putting
it's the
that
search for
play on
narrative.
others to not try to just be here now, accept the reality you put yourself into, and just keep going.
That's the danger of the herd mentality too. You know, it's just so easy to fall into that like it could all be just lies, and even if it's lies, as long as the herd manifests it and keeps it going, that will be the quote truth, even
Right.
though it's not.
Yeah.
And
You
that's what
know?
I was about to say. The reason why I think I can't get to a place where you're at philosophically, I desire that place. I do agree with you already, but I think I physically am not there often.
See, that's
Because
the problem, because we all are there. We
Right.
are all there. You just can't stop seeing yourself as not being there. And the minute you keep personifying, perceiving, or spellcasting your mind to being there, the more and continuously it will just stay there because you just keep creating it.
But is this not a hard problem to resolve? I mean, even scientists, and like I said, we all want to get
It
to
goes
where
beyond
you're at.
science.
Scientists were shocked when they found out that some planets in other solar systems did not have the orbit of planets in our solar system. That all orbits are different. They were actually shocked by this because they were so stuck in the pattern of seeing how our planets rotate around our sun. They were shocked that there were these different orbits that were going way out in these elliptical orbits or circular orbits that didn't match ours. So it's even a mistake that the highly intelligent are making. Because it's not a matter of intelligence, it's a matter of distraction. And
Yes,
everything
It
that
makes
is a
you feel that
distraction.
much more
Yes.
significant
Yes.
and scary.
Even that, all these highly intelligent people are now going out trying, oh, wow, now we figured out that these planets circle around the sun differently. Wow. All these intelligent people could be using that same mindset we're living here on Earth. This is where we live infinitely, eternally. But we keep trying to search elsewhere and keep trying to play in our infinite ego trips as if it's never gonna end. And if we don't see where we are infinitely here and now, we're not going to be able to have a place to live infinitely here and now because we're destroying ourselves.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And if we don't see that and we don't fix it to have it, if we don't fix the earth to go in a progressive state for us to continually to be in our free will, we'll never be able to continue this free will in the first place because our free will kill us.
Oh, I agree. But I think we recognize. I think we've made some progress in the fact that it's pattern recognition, right?
It is pattern
We're
recognition.
okay. This happened, that happened before. Let's look for the next thing that fits into the pattern. If all I see
Like
is
a video
this
game.
a table that
Game
looks like
theory.
this,
game theory.
everywhere I go, I'm going to be looking for a table that looks
That
like this.
feeds
When
our
I see
ego,
one
too.
that's round and not like this, I'm going to be, what the heck is this? So it's the pattern. We want everything to fit into patterns, into structure. Because after it falls out of that, it's considered chaotic. It's considered unknown. And I think that's why when you go into the
And you
unknown,
need to
you
know
open
the
yourself.
unknown chaotic patterns.
Well, I
of
think
it
the
all.
people that do
When
know
you do that, though, you are opening up to the infinite, aren't you?
Yes.
Because you're not boxing yourself into. In other words, if we all want to, whatever your favorite food is, right? If we all want to go back to our favorite restaurant and order our favorite dish and order the safe dish, we're gonna maybe be safe, but we are not open to anything else but that thing. We are narrowing our vision to the thing we know we like. We know we're going to order from the same waitress every time. When we go to a place we've never been before and order something totally new on the menu, what is our mind doing? It's taking a chance on anything. It's actually opening up. It's a little more painful. It's a little more uncomfortable, but it's not the boxed-in, narrow, safe zone. We're not boxed in. So you have to get a little discomfort with taking a risk.
Like, who said we had to be safe? No offense. Like, why is this like predetermined like idea of like goodness, safety, purity, the human way? Like, what is
Let's
that?
all
Like,
stay on the
humans are
couch.
chaotic. I'm
You know,
sorry,
it's not
we're just
like-
this organic.
Look how far you came from. You came from Englewood. I said that's 85% of people, my generation, your generation, on a day snowing like this, 90% would not have even left the house.
Oh. Wow.
That's what I'm saying that's happened. I saw McDonald's delivering to
I
somebody.
was thinking about camping tonight, but she said you to come here.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're
There you go.
camping, I'm sorry.
on Camping Tuesdays.
Right, yeah,
And I was
yeah.
by myself.
Most people would. But I saw McDonald's delivering the other day. I saw Walmart delivering to somebody because that
Oh, we're
person's not
becoming.
leaving their house.
Do you know that movie Wall-E?
Yeah.
I know it's like a kids movie with the robots.
That is an adult
Yeah.
Like
film.
post. So it's like,
Apocalyptic.
it's like a post-apocalyptic movie where it's about like a robot that survives, and it's like, you know, humans are like these fat, like sitting in these like chairs and have people feed. It's like
Because
that
everything
situation.
can come to them now.
Yeah, so that's what we're becoming.
So I get the convenience. I'm not trying to judge that. I get it. Look, everybody likes comfort. There's a time for comfort. But when it's at the expense of everything else,
Yeah,
I think that's when it becomes a problem.
we're really bad at finding the balance of things.
Yeah.
I think this is the way that the system is set up. We're talking about left and right wings of the same eagle. Until we figure out we got to find a different bird, this is just going to keep happening.
Damn.
I even find it tiring to even talk about it because
Mhm.
it just keeps happening over and over and over. That even talking about it, it does nothing for me at this point, you know.
Mm.
So when we talk about
It's laughable,
we
yeah.
can't fix this system. There's no such thing as a living wage. There's no such thing as a good job.
Yeah.
This system is set up for you to follow a path. The way I grew, I'm from the projects, and I grew up on Section 8, food stamps, all that.
Yes.
And this is a nightmare because when you could give me $100 in food stamps, but I'm gonna buy shitty foods. Not I don't even eat this kind of stuff no more. This is what I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only
Sorry.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
grew up
We
on
like-
the same stuff too.
Yeah.
I grew up on church pantry.
Yeah, but you go to liquor stores open corner stores 24 hours with liquor in the cabinets with this, stuff like that. And if they do got some maybe like an apple or a head of lettuce or something, that's not, it has to go way beyond that.
Diet.
And
Diet
then,
is
but then
key.
the same people are telling me, they're trying to get me the food stamps, they're trying to get me this living wage. They're fighting the people who are trying to lower my taxes. Because now, if I want to start a business, these are the same people that want to raise the taxes on me, want to do 50, 60, 70%. I don't want a job. I want to create my own. But the same people trying to keep me boxed in. I'm not a Republican either. I don't do parties.
Anarchists.
I don't do it, even anarchism. I don't even do any
You
type
just
of
are.
labels. Yeah, I
Yeah,
grew up.
that's good.
I grew up. I mean, I was into Che Guevara very early. 12 years old, I was into revolutions. Or my father, I'm from Colombia, so we were Latin American revolutions. What I grew up on,
Whoa.
and seeing all this, I was very into this at 12, 13 in middle school. Seeing all this around me, that's when I realized I had to get out of high school. I should have gotten out earlier, to be honest. I've never even had anyone ask me for a diploma. Never needed it. I went to technical school. I didn't need college enough for what I'm doing now. I could have saved a lot of money and reinvested in myself. But the paradigm, the system is telling you need to do this, otherwise you're gonna be on food stamps for the rest of your life. That's false though. I don't want food stamps. I don't want a job. This is the system inflicting it upon me. So therefore I must disregard the system. I have to let go of that system. I'm not feeding that system no more. So I can't tell you I'm creating a system, because even that, the system itself will fall. Every system will fail or lag or need to be rebuilt. There is no system anymore. There's only me, as I am I, as you are you. That is the only system I can even recognize to be true. Everything else will change or destroy.
Have you guys seen the thing with The Simpsons created the Donald Trump becoming president, and almost all the
in
images
2000.
and almost
Yeah,
all
yeah,
their
yeah.
images
They're the
reflected
same,
Donald
yeah.
Trump becoming president, and they've done multiple other things of creation that came into manifestation, as so as other programming
Family Guy, too.
shows. Now,
Back to the future.
it's almost basically that it's almost like since words are spells, if you really want to direct your own life, as crazy it may sound, you just write your life in a book as if you're writing your life from where you are right now, and just put your character in, and as ridiculous, put the size house you'll live in, how much money you'll have. You really don't have to go too detail on the materialization of how it will manifest, because the nature of it all is just the natural self feeding itself, and you direct your life until you die, and then what you do is you just shut that book and you never look at it again, because you wrote it all out, you spelled it out, but now you gotta not think about it and just live it.
This is true. I did this when I was 16. I'm going to be 26 later this year. I told myself it's going to take me 10 years. I wrote down, like you said, everything. I said it would take me 10 years to get to where I want to be. Here I am, literally about to reach this in a matter of weeks. Like I said, I'm good, and I'm really good now. And it took me 10 years. I wonder what would have happened if I would have wrote 3 years, 1 year, 5 years. It would have happened. I wrote 10 years, and this
But
is
it
what
needed to
happened.
be exactly what
Exactly.
it was.
But it was inside me. Yeah, it was me telling myself.
But you felt the authentic.
Because I thought it would take 10 years.
Exactly.
I
So
thought
the
it
3
would
was
take-
not
Yeah.
authentic.
Exactly.
But here's another thing: is I do, and I'm not even being negative. I'm being like I'm seeing the whole spectrum on this. There is an energy that we've already manifested from the past, right? So to overcome that,
from birth.
we have to, when we manifest, and I think, in my opinion, and I respect your point of view, and I like the repetition in it, and it needs to be more than belief. It has to be a knowing, because belief almost isn't enough.
Yes.
It almost isn't enough to
You
overpower
have to
all
know.
the habits from, or all the, and look, let's face it, we've all been screwed. We've done good things and been screwed by good people. You could be a great employee and have a horrible boss. That's true too. You can run into some bad people and be doing all the right things. But whatever the case may be, is that energy from stuff that's your own fault or others' fault too, has been built up over a lifetime. You can overpower with manifestation. But I think it has to be an intuitive knowing rather than belief. Because when I've just tried belief, it's not strong enough. Knowing is strong enough.
Because
You
you
know what's
have
important?
to let go and trust the flow of the universe.
Yeah.
If you put 3 years, like how he was saying, well, getting in a second, if you put 3 years, he now has a much faster and deeper trip that he has to keep trusting and letting
And
go.
I don't think his gut felt
And
the 3 years.
that is
That's
very,
why I put the 10.
Because
that,
I
that's
didn't
a
know
much
it
more
it can only take
heavier
3 years.
process
Yeah.
of putting the mind through, as maybe a child putting themselves in a much more darker state of place of living and growing up to achieve a higher state of mind, because they put themselves in a deeper place of finding that love, to then when they get out of it, they reach a higher place.
And you
Okay,
know
but let
what's
me
really
ask you-
important though
yeah,
is
but-
like caring about your story. You know?
Yeah.
Like I care a lot about almost everything. I don't know. I find like a lot of meaning in things.
You
Even
forget
like
your own.
You have
Yeah.
empathy.
or like I try to, because I feel like, I don't know, I was just brought here one day and I've had a lot of shit happen to me in life, and you know what? I mean, there are things I do like sometimes, you know? So I'll appreciate them, and then I learn, you know, a lot of things can be appreciated, and then it's just like caring about your story and caring about like the ability that you two were able to actually write down what you want in life. I don't think a lot of people can do that, because they immediately start
Well, they
falling
immediately think it's
into
ridiculous.
yeah, and then they start comparing themselves, because it's this, you know, when you're living with around a lot of people. I'm not a very social person. I never had a huge social group I was a part of.
You're not a social person.
No, I had a
You
very
organized this whole thing.
no, now I am, but growing up I had a very small group of friends, because I really didn't I really perceived whether or not someone was genuine enough, and then I didn't want to be their friend if they weren't, because it was
Right.
like, it was just too emotionally, you know, bearing on me. But anyways, but like I was the same way. I cared a lot about what I wanted to do in life, and I cared more about making it my own. So I'm someone that like literally like did not feel safe being perceived as a like if I never wanted to associate myself with a group of people. I wanted to be myself.
You're being the universe for the universe.
Yeah.
And that's truly letting go. And that's basically how you can truly know and materialize your creation, because you're letting go and going with all the flows in front of you, allowing yourself to bring that knowledge, or those places of where your mind is needing to go, but you don't see how it is going to get where you're trying to go. So by you just keep giving.
Oh, I have no expectations, and that helps.
Exactly.
I have a very loose idea of what I would like to happen, but I will never set myself up to be disappointed.
It's the golden ratio. You
Because
got.
that will never
It's the
happen.
golden
I can't
ratio.
predict
You
the
got,
perfect future.
like,
Golden ratio right here.
yeah. You got the golden
Perfect.
ratio, but there's two parts of it. You got the spiral.
Oh, the
where,
Illuminati.
well, you got the
And then
spiral
it's
where you,
cut up.
where you
Yeah.
start right
Is that the
here,
Fibonacci?
and it's just everything in nature, and you can start from point A, and you see where you are, and you see where you want to get, and you just let it go, and you just flow with the universe, and it kind of happens. But what most people do in society, about 90% of
To make
society,
a straight line.
they go, well, let's go from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E to point F to point G, and it will go, it will work. It will look more organized, and it will seem more correct, but it will take a lot longer, because you're just trying so goddamn hard to make everything work so perfectly. And this is the male energy.
Yep.
This is the male energy, and that's the feminine
that's
energy. That's the
something.
right side of the brain, and that's the left
I
side
want
of the
the
brain.
female and male energy.
And that's just a
Enemas?
terminology. It's
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah, because I've studied Egypt. I get a lot of that terminology from the female and male energy, and how women for a long time there was like a maternal hierarchy in Egypt itself, where women were. It was the matriarchy, and then over time it just became patriarchy. It's a cycle because it's going to return to matriarchy just as it once was.
It's been the
Yeah.
patriarchy for a while, but I think around a couple of years ago, something started
Homogeny
to
is
shift.
evil. Homogeny is bad. Right? When it becomes the matriarchy, it became bad. When it becomes a patriarchy, it becomes bad. But when it's like the
I mean,
flow of,
Egypt is like the perfect example because so much.
Yes.
right, it's the flow of the two.
They
Right, it's
create
the-
the one.
Right, it's
I wanna-
with the action of the two moving, but when then one is too powerful, right, that's when there's a problem or whatever.
Because you're
You
gonna
know,
go
it's-
from A to C, and you're gonna go through all these steps, but you can't try to picture how they're gonna work, and you just have to see the connecting of the dots. Like, oh, I am on the correct flow of getting to where I need to be. Then those are those random connecting of the dots that aren't the pattern, but they're the pattern.
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah.
have to see the chaotic pattern.
So
and
I
not
really
your-
like
think what
I
you're
really like
describing-
Egyptology. I
Order
want to
and
know
chaos.
what
Oh,
your
yeah.
what you were saying about Egyptology. 'Cause I'm really into that. Can you explain that a little bit more?
They basically be, like you said, the left, right side of the brain. All these ideas of everything we're talking about now in terms of ancient wisdom, universal wisdom, can be traced back really today. We're talking about the stars. We could talk about the human body. We could talk about culture, agriculture, civilization, monuments. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been to Egypt. My goal is to go to Egypt, hopefully this summer for about 2-3 months. Just meditate for a couple weeks straight in front of the pyramid. That's my dream.
That's gonna
Wow.
be insane.
For the dream is the pyramid.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you go into the forest. I want to go to Egypt. I went to Colombia last year on a psychedelic trip to learn more about my culture because that's where I'm from.
What'd you
And
take?
I took actually DMT over there.
Did you
Wow.
smoke it?
I took DMT, AC4, something like that. It's like a little thing. It's like a
DMT dash
ACO, something like
you took
that.
you actually took you took psilocybin. It's actually a mushroom.
They say it's like a mix of mushrooms.
It's a mushroom.
Yeah,
Psilocybin.
I don't know what it was, but I mean it changed my life because I remember when I had a point where I wanted a specific mountain that I wanted to go to. I took it. I was actually with my cousin. He don't even smoke weed, so he had taken it with me. Never tried psychedelics. I had tried acid and mushrooms maybe 2 weeks before that. I'm not really a psychedelic user, and so we're doing it. And I start closing my eyes, and I just start tears just start really. I'm really crying, and I don't feel sadness. No, I actually feel elated. And it's just kind of pouring out, and I'm actually seeing colors brighter with my eyes closed, looking at the sun than I ever did with my eyes open.
Yeah, you're opening up the higher
And I saw
frequencies.
all these dead relatives, including my grandfather, very visibly. And I'm not a supernatural kind of guy where I have dreams like, oh, this means this. My dreams are astrology, and but I very visibly saw. I saw people I've never met before reaching their hand out to me, and I'm here reaching out my hand, thinking I'm not even crazy.
You're out in nature.
Yeah, it was a specific mountain. I'm here on the floor, touching the ground.
Truly good.
And it was perfect. It was the whole life coming to one moment. So now I'm gonna have to keep going back. And then eventually I determined that these specific mountains are where my family were there for hundreds of years. I go back from indigenous to my
Wow.
mother's side for hundreds of years. That's why I wear gold, not really as a fashion thing. This is what my
Connect,
people wore.
connect.
Yeah, because they had a lot of gold. El Dorado technically was in Colombia,
Mm-hmm.
and these metals were conducive to whether it was obtaining sunlight, almost like a vitamin D source, or just obtaining the power that was necessary to create this gold in the first place, or even where this came from. Might have come from outer space. I mean, there's a lot of theories around gold.
Mhm.
So all these ideas of basically trying to connect, find your own path. That's just what I had to do.
They
You know?
say you can tune into if you really get in touch with the earth memories of a particular spot.
That's right.
Even
That's why I
here,
went
you
there.
can tune into what was here thousands of years ago
In
if you go to a deep
Colorado.
enough state.
In Colorado, I was on some mountain.
Did you go to the dunes? I forgot if you said you were going to go to the dunes or not.
No.
No.
I was somewhere 10,000 feet up. It was an old mining town,
Yeah.
maybe 1860, 1850. And we were sleeping on an old house and LSD. And I started hearing these frequencies in the universe. And then I started hearing little children start playing and and a woman, and I started hearing all these like voices, and I just started hearing every single person playing. And then out of nowhere, my friend got up and he just started acting like he's from the town. Like he started literally acting like as if he was from the old Dutch settlement, as if his energy has come from, or his energy really subconsciously, unknowingly honed in on the vibrations and became like one of their essences,
Yeah.
and was like pulsating the actual play of the play that was happening back in the day, of the here and now of that time.
Of the time, yeah.
Who says the
Former
energy
now.
doesn't
Yes,
stay?
the former now.
The
of
former
now.
now. But
Former
what is
now.
going on with Colorado? I mean, I noticed that in the there are places that were dormant in the 20th century, or they had some potential. That like Jersey City, Newark, Honolulu. What's that other place in Colorado? The Boulder, Austin, Texas, San Diego. These were all. Some of these places were known, but now all of a sudden they're thriving. Like Jersey City's coming back, Newark's coming back, Seattle's coming back. I mean, making Colorado. Man, it's like I hear Colorado every other week. People moving to Colorado. All the spiritual energy in Colorado. It's like it's an awakening
I would.
state. It was just another state back when I was a kid. Colorado. I mean, it was a beautiful state, but there were other beautiful mountain states like Wyoming. Now, Colorado is like.
Maybe it's
It's like
the way that
making
people
a
are
spiritual.
thinking
There's so
now.
many spiritual people moving to
Yeah,
Colorado.
that's the difference, I think.
It's changing. It's like waking up. And and I'm noticing there's just certain places. The Jersey City. You go to Jersey City now, the nightlife is actually starting to rival New York. There are certain cities, places in the 20th century which they have held their own, but now they're really away. There's almost an energy awakening. I remember before 9/11, New Jersey used to be in the shadow of it. I used to go to New York and people would laugh if you said you were from New Jersey, pre 9/11. Now it's almost like Jersey is becoming respected. Something is changing in our energy level universally.
I would like to speak one thing that goes back to kind of what you said, just for anyone listening. When you take a psychedelic, it is a soul healing experience that connects you with the universe. When your mind takes it like a drug, you are receiving almost nothing from it, and the universe is more or less infinitely directing you to become more lost, because you are trying to use a substance in a way that you, in a more egotistical realm, in the house or around a park or in a party, and that is not how these things go about. And when you take something of substance like this and say nature, and you're completely alone, that's why the mind will go through a completely different experience, because you're receiving and you're feeling the energy of the love and oneness of nature, and not dwelling into your chaotic mind of all the realities in front of you. And when you do it in such like nature, you will have such a soul healing, connecting universal experience where you only need one time to do such a thing, instead of continuously, infinitely searching for it within a substance when it's not even there, it's in yourself.
I was going to ask you, how do you feel about people that are like, that go to do like ayahuasca like 30-something times just because it's like what they do? You know, like,
lost.
oh, yeah, and they're usually, I'm sorry, world, but they're usually white men with
Time,
money.
First time I ever
You're like, oh, I'm on a tour.
First time I ever
Second
smoked
time,
DMT, I received a message from the universe basically saying you do not need to smoke this, and you need to give this and guide others to have a proper trip, so that they don't infinitely use this and infinitely abuse this and infinitely get lost. Give the proper direction of the mind, so when it goes there, they only need that one experience, basically like a shaman in essence. And that's why if you don't know what you're doing or where you're going, and you're with somebody that's very experienced, they can not, they're not doing actually anything. They're sitting in the shadows, basically watching you or letting you find yourself into the center of your mind. And because a true shaman knows they can't do anything. It's always and forever just you guiding you. You drink the water. We can bring you to the water, but we can't show you how to drink. We can't shove your head in the water. You just got to drink the water. And you don't tell someone even how to drink water. You don't tell someone what to do. You just do it.
What do you think about shared dreams, though? Do you think that's possible?
I think it is
With
possible
the right
at a certain
frequency?
level, but I do think that part of the issue is this isn't something that's easy to begin with, because we're blocking. So many people are blocking out higher vibrations, right? There's multiple levels to this. There becomes a clarity of our universe. There becomes a clarity of love and wisdom here. But then when you go beyond that, there are other realms there are other realms here on Earth. So I should say this on camera, but there are other realms, and I'm not just talking about spiritual realms. I'm talking about higher. When we think of spiritual, we think of immortal energy, right? And our minds kind of condense everything, narrow everything down. It's human energy. Immortal energy in the spiritual realm, you live forever. This is physical energy. There are realms in between that are lighter and less dense than physical, but heavier and more dense than immortal. And in those realms, beings that I thought were mythical, or were we talked about as being mythical, don't live forever, but they don't live for 80 years either. They live for thousands of years. Because it said this etheric realm. The scientists have proven that there actually is an etheric realm.
Well, that's essentially what nature is also, right? There are probably things in nature in general that exist for a time period that we don't, like think about a tree, for instance. There are many trees that have existed way beyond
Hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So redwoods, even thousands.
All right, so like you can't. It's hard to even say that there's more about a tree than we will ever know because of how finite we are.
There's also an
Same about
etheric
the
energy.
ocean.
We all have an aura.
Especially
We
the
all have
ocean.
a spiritual
It's how
component to
finite
it.
we are. It's
Yeah.
more how infinite we are.
Why do you
Yeah,
say
we're
that?
only seeing a level of ourselves. We're not seeing the whole us. But in some of these higher realms, because of this less dense reality,
We're not a
I-
human being experiencing the universe, or the universe experiencing
Experiencing
a
itself.
human being.
Yeah.
The universe experiencing itself.
I think that because we're immediately thrust into like a super sense-oriented experience as soon as you're born. I mean, that you're immediately freaking out because of your senses, and we're so used to this materialism that we are, and like the things that sedate us because they please our senses in one way or another, that it's hard.
I was actually going to just make that point.
Yeah.
I can see this cup, and this is where I feel like this is difficult. I can see this cup. I know it's in my hand. Okay, so you're saying about manifesting the future and making what I believe 100%. Here's where it's hard. I can see this. I can feel this. It's here now. Have this same belief to manifest something in the future, to get past your past trauma, right? Unless you've had a really good life. You need to have the same faith in the future that you have in this. That's not a belief. That's a factual knowing. I can knock on this. I can feel. So to manifest, you have to actually be like, the future of me living in that $1 million mansion is as real as this cup right before me right now. But the problem is, the knowing from holding this cup comes from me actually holding it.
That's why
I'm not in the mansion
I
yet.
have so
That's
much,
what makes this difficult. That's why I think you're right, but it's not easy. Because how do you get to a level of knowing, of seeing something concrete that does not yet exist?
That's
If you
why
can do that, you can manifest anything. I just think it's not easy.
I've always had so much respect for people that persevere and groups that persevere, because it's like they're being slaughtered out there, and they're still like as strong as, you know, like I'm
Something
sorry,
you
Comes to
said.
people
you know what I mean?
that do all
They're good
that,
at
but
manifesting
they
their idea.
never cared that if they ever received it or not, because it doesn't matter. Because it just is. They see it happening, but it just is. It doesn't matter when, where, or why. It just is.
You're saying they're 100% tuned into it and nothing on the periphery.
Because they're tuned into. Because they're tuned into directing and manifesting with their free will, as putting that flow upon the universal flow as well, and you're giving as much as you're receiving. Well, in my opinion, giving more than you're receiving, because that's just how I see. That's just how I live. But you're allowing your life to connect with the flow of the universe by not manifesting in just a straight ego way for yourself, but letting go to others, so that because they're just you, so that when you need those energies to let go to you, it will be right there to continue your path to manifesting your goal. But you can't just look at it like it's that mountain. You can't go. You could walk up that mountain pre-directed by nature, but you think you're doing it all yourself. You think you're directing it. You think you're going.
It all
up to the
comes
top.
down to the
It's
ego.
not.
Yeah.
You
But
can't.
letting go of 80% of the ego, yes.
Have you
Letting
guys
go
ever
at
had,
90%,
You
but
need the
letting
ego.
go of 100% of the ego is not an easy task. You can even get to 99%, and you can get to 100%, but it's not easy.
I think ego is necessary
Well, you can't
for
be
certain
100%
reasons.
100% of the time.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't be
right,
100%
Because that's
always
what it means to be
to
finite.
ever not have an ego, because if you're
Right.
even 99% there, that's great. That's awesome.
But there's times and places
But-
where you need an ego death. Doesn't mean it diminishes your ego. It just means that you've experienced like
An ego
the
death.
coming down from.
Well, that's our
You've
finite
experienced
miss.
drinking this coffee because you love it, but you didn't go out of your way to go get it.
True.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because you're in the present
Well,
moment.
yeah, you're
You're
responding.
so in the present moment. So in other words, whatever you do, I'm happy with. Don't take that to the bank. But I'm just saying metaphorically, whatever you do, I'm happy with. You know, it's like I'm accepting this moment for what it is, not what I want it to be.
Mm.
But I struggle with that sometimes, because sometimes I want things to be a certain way, and I think that's the human part of us.
Perfectionist, OCD.
Yeah.
That's how I. Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so what about like, so remember you were what is that, the Fibonacci,
The
Golden
Fibonacci
ratio.
sequence.
the golden ratio?
Yes.
I think a lot of what's happening right now is, remember how you were showing me the second point on the board? I think not right now, but the second point on the board is chosen by other people, or like is dictated to you by other people, and it takes. So like, an example is, you know, like someone who gets born into the system, goes through public school, is told they have to go to college, whatever, you know, going through the mainstream government narrative, right? Those people don't see, some people are born into such a world of comfort, right, in that situation, that they don't see that that second point on the golden ratio that you were showing me is decided for them. So they're spiraling into chaos, into a conclusion which someone else decided for them. And by the
That's
time they
most
get to
people.
that's what I'm saying, by the time they get to that conclusion, that's when they have a psychotic break. Is because they realize that they this whole time had the ability to decide the end game conclusion, right? But instead it would someone manipulated them into
A
believing.
great example of that, and it's not even, it's crazy, it might seem manipulation because it is, but it's not.
Okay.
My friend Sean Gonzalez, he found he really liked to produce music, nothing else.
Uh-huh.
So he then is hanging out with my friend Dan, who is producing films. Getting lost in Dan's energy, comes to him saying he wants to make a screenplay. So my friend Dan, who's in the same very similar vibration as myself, sees him wanting to play this creation, but so he says, okay, I'll help you play this play. But in reality, it's Dan making the screenplay, Dan making the film, but this kid thinks that he's doing it all himself because he's wanting to create it. So Dan's still guiding his mind in doing this creation, which is for Dan, but he's doing it for Sean. So in the beginning scene, he is a newscaster, and his name is Dan Rather. And what he first says is, "Hi, I'm Dan Rather, because I'd rather be doing something else. Because this is not what he wants to be doing, but this is what he wants to be doing, but this is someone else's doing for someone else to find themselves, thinking that it's themselves, but lost in someone else's creation of themselves." And so continuously directing Sean through this movie in all these different activities,
Right.
where Sean is now even fighting, mean, why the fuck am I using a frisbee as a shield? How do I
Yeah, it gets out of
attack?
control,
And then
yeah.
Dan's like, oh, you need direction? Here's the direction. And,
Exactly.
And Sean's never fully seeing.
Oh, that's
yes,
why they're
and
constantly
instead of
creating these fake.
And Dan,
things
instead of
for us to
Sean
be upset
directing
at.
his own mind
Right.
in the direction, he
Right.
keeps thinking he's directing his mind, but he's directing his
Ah.
mind into Dan's direction of
Yes.
directing his mind.
Yeah.
So just don't get caught up in the narrative. That's all it comes
Well,
down
let
to.
me ask you a
Never
question about the human mind, because this is fascinating, and
Yeah.
I don't know because you guys are in your 20s, right? So
Yeah.
most of you, I don't know if this is happening yet for you, but I noticed if you look at people who are a little bit older, if something used to be good, right? Everybody remembers it. I remember when that bar was there and
Remember
Marty
it.
worked there, but now he doesn't,
Nostalgia.
and now it
Nostalgia.
sucks. But when the opposite happens, it doesn't. It's not the mirror image. In other words, if I know places that used to suck, that got better. Like Willie's Diner was not that great. State Street Grill replaced it. The food is much better. No one's going around saying, man, no one's going around going, hey, State Street Grill is better than Willie's Diner, except like me and my friend. Everybody else is just not saying that. It's almost like they just stopped going to the State Street Grill. They just stopped trying it. It's almost like when something new is better, no one recognizes that the new place is better. No one over a certain age. But when something old is better, they do. So there comes to this. I'll give you an example with the Geico insurance lizard. This is total what you're kind of talking about. And I can't even remember. The mind trip worked. And I'll explain well, no, not Mandela effect in this case.
Okay.
Geico's been having this commercial with this lizard for years. About 15 years ago, I saw a Geico commercial, and dude, the voice of the lizard, which is the voice that it is now, sounded completely different from the voice that I've been hearing all the time. And I'm like, why are they acting like this is the same lizard? Why aren't they saying it's his cousin or his uncle or something? Because this is a totally different voice. Everyone knows it. How dumb do they think we are? So then this was like 15 years ago. So then I see the commercial again, and I'm like, again, it sounds like a completely different voice. Like the old accent of the voice was it was like a Cockney accent. Then we got the voice that we hear now for the Geico lizard. And I'm like, why are they pretending this isn't a new voice? Why are they acting like this is the same character? It's totally not. Then the third time, same thing. I'm like, I still remember that other voice. I don't know why they're not even acknowledging it. How dumb do they think we are? And all of a sudden, by like the fourth time, and to this day, I can't remember what the original voice even sounds like. I remember saying that. This doesn't sound like the old voice. I have no memory of the original voice anymore.
That is
gone.
That is
wiped
called
from my mind.
normalization.
Yes.
That is when
It's
something.
collective consciousness, and
Yeah.
everyone else was mind instantly wiped it away.
Wiped it
Can I
away.
relate that to
And
the Women's
you're-
March?
And that's
Sure.
you having a higher reality
Yeah.
trip of
Being aware of it.
awareness as the collective self of yourself lets it go. It's hard to keep that because you're left to be the only one.
Well, I only remember that I was saying, what the heck happened? But the
You still
voice, I
remember.
can't remember what it sounded like anymore. I can't remember what the old accent was.
And that's how I feel about these social movements.
Yeah.
Is that they become so capitalized. Like we have an annual march to like for women's rights, when like that should just be an ongoing everyday thing somehow.
Yeah.
And
It's
to the
not
point
like
where
the
you're like, what are they
60s.
fighting for? And everyone's like,
Because it's not like the 60s where it's every day trying
Right?
to make it happen. They're
Yeah.
just, well, let's do it once a year to make everyone pleased thinking it's happening.
That's why we need something more aggressive and real.
It
something
happened
more
with-
real,
real.
not just for hype and not just for.
No, I agree. But it's happening.
You know?
Look at Breitbart, right? Not to make this political or anything, but it goes into the same conversation. They were saying that Breitbart, the right-wing alt-right site, was putting out news stories where the headline, a lot of internet, the headline had nothing to do with the story.